Okay. Last day we just been discussing about indexers, right? So what did I say? Indexer is another mechanism using which we can provide access to the values of a class to the outside environment. So how many options we saw till now? 3 options. What are the 3 options? Option 1, public fields. Problem is, don't have control on that. Second option, properties. We have a very good control on that. We have a very good control. Third option, indexers. Here also we have very good control on this. When to go with indexers also, I very clearly demonstrated to you in the last class. In what scenarios indexers are going to be best to use? When you have huge number of values. I given you an example also. Table, rows. Rows are countless. Yes or not? Today I have million rows in the table. Tomorrow there can be 2 million rows in the table. Next day there can be 3 million rows in the table. You cannot give a name now. In such scenarios, the best way to access is only by using the index. So in that type of scenarios, indexers are going to helping you much better way to access your data. So depending on the requirements, sometimes what we do, we define properties in the code, and sometimes we define indexers in the code. I mean, Microsoft has given you all options. In which variety you want, you can define the appropriate thing. Either you go for defining properties and provide the access, or either you define the indexers and provide the access. That is completely your choice, how you want to give access to the appropriate values. Are you clearer? Yes or not? So this is about the indexer. Okay, what are the next member, guys? Events. And I said you events. Events are something related to GUI programming. When I start GUI programming, I will teach you about events. Are you clearer? When I start GUI programming, I'll teach you about the events. Clear? Okay, what next? The next thing is only last one member left out for us. What is the last member? What is that? Deconstructor. Deconstructor. Deconstructors are something newly introduced in C# 7. Deconstructors is a member what is used introduced in C# 7. Okay. So what are these deconstructors? Let me explain you. Deconstructors. These are introduced in C# 7. Okay. Deconstructors are also used for providing access to the fields of a class to outside environment. Okay, just like a property or indexer. But what is the difference, you know? Only read-only access. They don't give you read-write access. What they give you? Read-only. So now you understand, guys, to provide the access to the fields of a class, we have 4 options then. What are the 4 options? Public fields. Second option, properties. Third option, indexer. And the 4th option is deconstructor. But deconstructor will give you what type of access here? Read-only. No chance for read-write access. It is read-only. Writing this deconstructor is very easy. Very, very easy. Only to understand a very simple code. Only thing is deconstruct. What is that? The name of the method is a deconstruct. Yeah. We write a method and the method name is deconstruct. What do you write, you know? You write the code which is opposite to constructor. You write the code which is opposite to constructor. I am not telling you it executes opposite to constructor. The one which executes opposite to constructor is finalizer. Understand here. Understand what I'm telling you. I am not telling this executes opposite to constructor. What I'm telling you, you write the code opposite to constructor. Coding only, not executing. The one which executes opposite to constructor is finalizer. We already discussed on that. This is completely different. You write code here opposite to constructor. Okay. I'll show you an example. Watch it. Shall we define one entity now called as teacher, customer, employee, student? We define different entities. So today I want to define a new entity with a name called teacher. Okay. So observe. Teacher. I want to declare the attributes of a teacher now. Attributes of a teacher. You may ask, underscore, sir, not required. Why? I'm not planning to write any property or an indexer. When you write any property or when you write any indexer, then only underscore. Is it clearer? Mainly not indexer also, mainly properties. Because property name and field names are always same. For that reason, we use the underscore. For indexers also not mandatory. And for deconstructor also not mandatory. Okay, now? So fine. Now, I want to initialize all these attributes through constructor. I want to initialize all these attributes through constructor. How do you write a constructor? Public teacher. First, int ID, string name, string subject, string designation, double salary. Inside of this, what is the code, guys? This dot ID is equals to ID. Next. This dot name is equals to name. Next. This dot subject is equals to subject. This dot designation is equals to designation. This dot salary is equals to salary. I'm not typing anything, you notice that? AI is generating all the code for me, that's all. Just tab keys. Okay? Yeah, this is a constructor. You know this. Now, what are we talking about? Deconstructor. What is the deconstructor? The code will be opposite to constructor. How do you write, Public void. What is the method name? Deconstruct. Deconstructor. I remember, I forgot, guys. Deconstruct. Deconstruct is the method name. And for this method, guys, we pass all the 5 parameters here. All the 5 parameters, all 5. The same 5 parameters what we passed here are the same thing what we are going to pass here also. But only difference, all these are output parameters. Constructor input parameters. Deconstructor output parameters. These are output parameters basically. All these are output parameters what we just defined. You noticed it? All are output parameters. What is the code, The code is reverse to, already that only said you reverse. Can you tell me what is the code? Reverse the code now. ID is equals to this dot ID. Same. Name is equals to this dot name. Subject is equals to this dot subject. Designation is equals to this dot designation. Salary is equals to this dot salary. That's all, you are over. That's all. Just the code reverse. First one will take values. Second one will return values. First one is taking the value. Second one is returning the value. And second one already I said you, deconstructor is read only. Cannot take a value. So no inputs. All are output parameters only. We don't use ref also. No in-out also. It's purely output. It's pure output. Out means purely output. In means purely input. And ref means in-out. Now it is in-out or output? Output. No, can't you use ref, sir? No, you can't. There is only output parameter. Cannot be a ref at all. Okay, fine. Now come to main method. Create the instance of your class. Watch. Teacher T is equals to new teacher. Always simple. I'll give a name called OBJ. Come on, guys. Let's initialize 1001, comma, name. Okay, name Raju. Subject, something like a computers. Okay, Next, designation, faculty, salary, something like some 50,000 I'm writing here. Okay. So, yeah, I'm just going to write some 50,000. So fine. Now what happens? You created the instance. And once you create the instance, all attributes are initialized. Correct? Memory allocated for all the attributes now. All the attributes now. Now, you just understand you're right now within the same class. You're right now within the same class. Okay, just a minute. But if you're out of the class, you can't access now. Yes or not? If you're out of the class, you cannot access. So just a second. I will rename this file once. Just a minute. Not teacher. I'll rename it as test teacher. This is teacher only. No changes to this. Now, what do you have in the class? One constructor and one deconstructor. Another class I'm writing. What's it? Test teacher. Look here. I'm making this as class is public. Here, I can create the instance of that class now. Correct? But same problem repeats again. What problem? Obj dot. You don't have access to the fields. Understood why I defined a separate class? I'm within the class means I'll get access to all the things now. Nah? That's why I'm showing you different classes. When you're out of the class, none of the things are accessible to you. Class is public, but fields are not public. But you want to access them. You want to access option 1. Go and make all of them as public. Option 2. Write 5 properties. Option 3. Write an indexer. Write an indexer. Option 4. Deconstructor. Provided your requirement is just to get the values, not set the value. See, when to use this deconstructor? Only when you want to get the value. No, sir, I want to set the value. If you want to set the value, don't use. Only when you want to get the values only, we just use. Are you clearer or not? When you want to get the value. Yes, guys, my requirement is only to get the value. Okay, na? Okay, then get the value. How many values I want to get? 5, na? And if a method returns a value, you declare a variable to capture. Now you are getting 5 values. You need to declare 5 variables to capture now. Come on. Int. Just to see. ID 1. Next. String. Name 1. Just to differentiate, I'm giving different names. Third one. String. Subject 1. Fourth. String. Designation 1. Double salary 1 or the 5 is equals to obj. That's it. That's it, guys. All the 5 values will come now and sit under the 5 fields. Sorry, 5 variables now. Are you clear? Just like you can call a method in capture, you're just assigning is equals to obj. Once you assign is equals to obj, the result will come now and sit under all the 5. Print and see. ID 1, name 1, subject 1, designation 1, salary 1. Just I'm printing, that's it. You can see the values getting loaded. Console dot read line. Come on. Which class to run? Test teacher. Oh, 2 main methods came there. Sorry, guys. I have 2 main methods. Error. Already there is a main, I again added error. Write it. Array, deconstruct is also a method. Na? Write a method. But if you write a method, you need to call individual values. Here we are directly assigning is equals to obj. That's all. So the question is, instead of this deconstructor, I'll define one public method to show all the 5 values. If you are writing a method to capture the 5, You require to call separately all the 5 now. But here, are we calling all the 5 separately? Single assignment is equals to OBJ. Finish. Which one is simple? If you want to write a method, no one can stop you. You can. No issues with that. Okay. I'll simplify this still. See. You're declaring it now. You're declaring it right now. 5 fields to capture the value. Correct? A bit lengthy. A bit lengthy. Correct? Just a second. You can call like this. Simply say where. No need to specify the data type names. You already know that. Where doesn't require data type names. Array, I explained you a similar concept to you already. If you want, go and see tuples. We talked about this particular thing earlier in the method definition. Tuples, whereof. You can use braces and declare the variables and get the values. Now you see, when I say an OBJ, the values will come to all the 5. So again, reprinting and showing you see. Two. Watch. Same output. Clearer? Huh? Yes or not? And do you remember this one? Overloading is 5 types. Tell me what are the 5? First one, method. Second one, constructor. Third one, operator. Fourth one, indexer. Fifth one, deconstructor overloading. You can overload the deconstructors. Method, it's a method only. Deconstructor is also a method. But what is the name of the method? Deconstruct. Can't I change the method name? You cannot. The method name should be deconstruct only. If the method name changes, this code won't execute, guys. You can't do an assignment like this. The method name changes. See their error. Watch it, guys. So what should be the method name? Deconstruct. That is predefined. That is fixed. You can't change the method name. Okay. If you want, you can overload them. What is the need, sir? I want to access only ID, name, and subject. I want to access only ID, name, and subject. Now understand, if you want to access only ID, name, and subject, this one, when I say OBJ, and I'm accessing only 3 values, error comes now. Watch it. Look, guys, I want to access only ID, name, and subject. I'm deleting the remaining 2. Error, guys. That's an error. Why error? Why error? It returns 5 values and you're capturing only 3. What about the rest of the other 2 now? Clearer or not? But I want to access only 3. If you want to access 3 also, the method returns 5. You need to capture all the 5. To overcome this problem, what you can do? You can overload deconstructors. You can overload the deconstructor. Watch it. I'm overloading now. Copy this code. Copy this code and define only 3 parameters and delete the remaining 2. Did you understand? First deconstructor returning 5. Second deconstructor returning 3. Now see, once you define this, there is no error here. See, earlier we got error. Now we don't have an error. So watch. Oh, sorry. 3. That is 3. I did not change the names. This is 3. Okay, now I can access only 3. I want to access ID, subject, salary. Tell me what to do. You're nodding like that. ID, subject, salary. What to do? You need to overload again now? Yes or not? What you overloaded now? ID, name, subject. Now I want ID, subject, designation. Another overload now. But how do you differentiate? Name is also string only. See guys, ID, name, subject means int, string, string. ID, subject, designation. Int, string, string only. Array, what you learned in overloading, yeah. In overloading, can you write two methods with int, string, string? Huh? Error na? Why? Either the number of parameters should change or type of parameters should change or order of parameters. See, to access ID, name, subject, you overloaded with int, string, string. Now next requirement is ID, subject, designation. ID, subject, designation. Then also int, string, string only. I want ID, name, designation. Then also int, string, string. Conflict occurs now. I can't define. Yes or not. Okay. Overloading is an option what it has given to you. But without overloading also we can pick whatever values you want. Without overloading also we can pick whatever values you want. Because there is a concept called indexer overloading. Sorry, deconstructor overloading. I explained you. But frankly, guys, no need to use overloading at all. Without overloading also, we can pick whatever values you want. How, sir? Earlier when we tried, we got error. Na? First we tried, we got error. We tried to pick three values, we got error. Possible. How is it possible? Watch it. What do you want? I want ID. I want subject. I want designation or salary. What are the three I want? ID, subject, and salary. Clear? Watch all of you how to get it. ID 4, name 4, now I'm using all. Array, now I'm using all, right? But what's your requirement? You want only ID. What you don't want? Name. What you don't want? Where you don't want, simply use underscore there. That's all. Where you don't want, simply use the underscore there. Next, salary. Subject we want. And next we want. What we don't want? Underscore there. That's it. This is much more simple than overloading, guys. This is much more simple than overloading. You understood now? I got only ID, subject, and salary. Watch. I did not put a line break there. Any combination you want? Tell me. I want ID, designation, salary. What I want? ID, designation, salary. Tell me how to write. Where? ID 5. Underscore. Underscore. What's that? Designation. Salary 5. Is equals to obj. Now tell me, is it going to be much simple than overloading or not? That is much simple when compared with your overloading now. So there is no point of overloading at all. So this is 3. Sorry guys, 5. This is 5. This is 5. And this is also 5. ID, designation, salary is what we got. Okay. So I very clearly said you, there is no chance of assignment. Pure read only. It's a pure read only. You cannot get the value. You cannot set the value. You can only get the value. So with this, guys, you must understand there are 4 different ways how I can expose the values of a class to the outside environment. How I can expose the values to the outside environment. Okay. You want to give an unconditional access, make the fields as public. But what he said, it's against the rules of the industry to declare any member of the class as public. Option 2, properties. That's a very controlled access. When you have limited size, properties are good. Third option, that is also a complete controlled access. That is also a complete controlled access like a property. When we have unlimited size, go for indexer. Last option, deconstructor. What is the use of the deconstructor? Deconstructor is used generally when you want to give read-only access to the values. It is going to be read-only access, not like a controlled access. It is completely read-only access what we can give to the users basically. When you want to read-only access, then we do go for defining the deconstructor. This is completely a new concept. So depending on the requirements, we will change our mechanism. Okay, here I cannot tell you use that or use that. My job is to tell you all options. When you are developing the application, then you need to decide what type of access you want. Based on that, you need to decide. See, one day I explained about public fields, not public fields here, static, non-static, constant, read-only. Yes or not? Next day I explained about ATM system case study. On that day, you decided clearly, you only decided, sir, start here it should be a read-only field, here it should be a constant field, here it should be a non-static field. That's what. As a developer in the future, you should be in a position to analyze and understand and use it perfectly. Am I clearer, all of you? So that's how exactly, that is how exactly we do it. Okay, this is about what? Deconstructors. Deconstructors. So only two things left out from my side, guys. What are the two things? One, delegates. One is delegates. Second one, both these two are related to GUI programming. Both these two are related to GUI programming. So when I start GUI programming, mostly in this week only we'll start with GUI programming. When I start with GUI programming, first I'll tell you delegates, I'll tell you events, how do we use them in the GUI programming. We'll just try to understand it over there. Am I clearer, all of you? So in that classes, I will teach you about the delegates and how do you make use of the delegates in your applications. So there we'll learn about delegates here. Okay, fine. The next topic what we are going to learn today, exceptions and exception handling. Once we complete this exceptions and exception handling, we can jump into GUI programming. Okay now, so what is our topic? Exceptions and exception handling. So I have a question here. What are these exceptions and exception handling? So what is it? What are these exceptions and exception handling? So what is the exception and exception handling? This is a big question what we have in our minds now. Okay, so let me explain you about these exceptions and exception handling in detail today. See guys, listen. Generally, when you are developing any application, we will be coming across different types of errors actually. Tomorrow, when you are developing applications, you'll be coming across different types of errors. Different types of errors will be coming across. Okay, what type of errors? Basically, there are two types of errors what we come across. What are the two types? One, compile time errors. Two, runtime errors. What is the first one? Compile time errors. Second one, runtime errors. So you'll be wondering, what is a compile time error and what is a runtime error? What is a compile time error and what is a runtime error? Is a big doubt what will be in your mind. Sir, what are compile time errors and what are runtime errors? An error that occurs due to syntactical mistakes. An error that occurs due to syntactical mistakes is what we call as compile time error. Did you understand me or not? Yes or not? Okay, what is that? An error that occurs due to syntactical mistakes is what we call as compile time error. Means generally what are they? They are syntactical mistakes, guys. And what we call them? We call them as compile time errors. So anything that occurs due to a syntactical mistake is what we call as a compile time error. You forgot to end a statement with semicolon. You forgot to end a statement with semicolon. You forgot, guys. You did not use a semicolon for ending a statement now. Did you catch my point? You forgot to end a statement with a semicolon. Okay, you did not enclose the string properly inside a double quotes. You did not enclose a string properly inside a double quotes. All these are what we are compile time errors. All these are nothing but compile time errors. Now, are these dangerous? Are these compile time errors dangerous? Come on. No, compile time errors are not dangerous. Why? What happens if you get a compile time error here? Nothing happens. If you get a compile time error in your particular code, okay, it will show you the error message. And once it shows you the error message, you will be writing the code you'll be modifying the code. And after modifying the code, you will recompile the program again. So is there any danger with a compile time error means? No danger, nothing wrong with a compile time error. Are you clear? There is nothing problem with a compile time error. Now, the second type of errors what we generally come across in our applications are runtime errors. What are runtime error? An error which occurs in the middle of a program's execution. Guys, listen. An error which occurs in the middle of a program's execution is what we call as a runtime error. When do we get them? Middle of the program's execution. So if you get an error in the middle of the program's execution, those errors are called as runtime errors. Okay? Why do we get them? I'll tell you why do we get them. So when the program is executing, in the middle of the execution, these runtime errors will come. When the program is getting executed, in the middle of the execution, these errors will come. And very importantly, guys, runtime errors are dangerous. Runtime errors are dangerous. They are dangerous. Why? What is the problem, sir? Why they are dangerous? Because whenever a runtime error occurs in the program, your program will be abnormally terminated without executing the next lines of code. Your program will be abnormally terminated without executing the next lines of code. For example, you have a program of 1,000 lines. You have a program of 1,000 lines. You got an error at line number 10. You got an error at line number 10. If you get an error at line number 10, the remaining 9,990 lines will, 10,000 lines, 1,000 lines always. The remaining 990 lines of code will not execute now. The remaining 990 lines of code will not execute now. Why? You got an error at line number 10, right? Program will be abnormally terminated there now. Program will be abnormally terminated there now. So the rest of the code is not going to be executed. So did you understand the problem of a runtime error? So runtime errors are dangerous. Why they're dangerous? Because when they occur, the program gets abnormally terminated on the same line without executing the next lines of code. So this is going to be very, very dangerous. Suppose you went to an ATM machine. You are performing a funds transfer. You are performing a funds transfer. Okay? What are you doing? You are transferring how much? Some 50,000 rupees from your account to your friend's account. You are transferring some 50,000 rupees from your friend's account to, from your account to your friend's account. 50,000. So behind the screen, if you guys understand, 2 update statements has to execute here. How many? 2. First update statement will deduct the money from your account. Second update statement will add the money to your account. Add the money to the destination account. Deduct the money, add the money to the destination account. So 2 updates has to execute. First update executed, money deducted from your account. Are you clear? Before adding the money to the destination account, a runtime error occurred. Before adding the money to the destination account, a runtime error occurred. Do you know what is your fate now? You lost 50,000 now. You lost your 50,000 now. Why? Runtime error occurs. What did I say? Abnormal termination now. Before the second update executes, runtime error came now. Program abnormally terminated, but already money was deducted from my account. Already money was deducted from my account. So I lost the 50,000 now. Are you happy? Losing the 50,000, are you happy now? You won't even sleep. Yes or not? You will immediately go to the bank, call the call centers just to find out what happened. Got the point or not? So that's what I'm telling you. Runtime errors are very, very dangerous because when they occur in the program, your programs are going to be abnormally terminated on the same line without executing the next lines of code. So that's why I'm just telling you these are very, very dangerous, guys. So how to resolve the problem, sir? To resolve this particular problem, what you're just going to do is, okay, what to do to resolve the problem, I'll tell you. But before telling you how to resolve the problem, first let me explain you this one. Why do I get runtime errors in the code? Why do I get runtime errors in the code? Why do we get compile time errors in the code? Already we discussed. Why? Why? Syntactical mistakes. What I said here? Syntactical mistakes will cause you. But why do we get runtime errors in the code? That's a big question now. Runtime errors occur in the code. Runtime errors occurs in the code. Basically, due to various reasons here. Runtime errors occurs in the code due to various reasons. Not like one reason, guys. There are various reasons why runtime errors occurs in the code. Sir, what are the reasons why we get runtime errors in the code? Okay. The first reason why do we get a runtime error in the code is wrong implementation of logic. What is that? Wrong implementation of logic. Okay. What is that wrong implementation of logic? Look. Is the code I'm writing. Okay, look at the code and find out. Is there any compile time error in the code? What? First line, semicolon is missing. Perfect. You missed the semicolon here, compile time error. Any other? What is the mistake? So, I asked you, is there any compile time error in the code? One thing you said, semicolon missing. That's compile time error. Any other compile time error in the code? Is there any other compile time error in the code? Speak louder. I did not understand. Less than or equal to? Why? That is compile time error. Then what I ask, tell that here. Why are you deviating yourself? What is my question or what is your answer? You go and answer like this only in the interviews. Stick to the question. Answer what is the question, that only. Why are you changing the question? What is the question? Do we have any, are there any compile time errors in the code? Stick to that. It is perfect now? Okay. Now, you run the code now. You run the code. When you run the code, then you will get an error. When you run the code, you get an error. What error? Runtime error will come. Why? Why? What is the mistake in the logic? Tell me. Logical error. What is the mistake in the logic? You're writing I less than or equal to. So what? Yeah. Tell me. Clearly describe. What is the problem? Tell me. Error index. So what is the problem? You're telling the logic. You're not telling the problem. I did not ask you to tell the logic. I asked you to tell what is the problem. Why? Why index out of the bounds? Okay. So, array, the answer is there are 5 elements in the array and the loop runs for 6 times. Describe means you're telling logic here. What I'm telling you, describe the error. What is the error? Tell that. What is the error? There are 5 elements in the array and the loop is running for 6 times. That is what you require to describe. Understood my point? Make it descriptive. Someone has to understand what you're trying to tell. Are you clearer or not? What is the problem? Elements are 5. Loop runs for 6 times. That is the error. What error with read line here? Why you're talking about read line? There's no issue with read line. There is a logical error now. The number of elements in the array are 5 and the number of times the loop is executing is 6. So this leads to a runtime error, not a compile time error. Compiler won't tell me this. No, it won't tell. Why? Because is there a point here? Why compiler doesn't tell? Compilers are designed only to check the syntaxes, not the logic. Did you catch my point? Compilers are designed only to check the syntaxes, not the logic. If compiler only can write the logic, then why you and me are required here? Yeah, compiler only will do all the things then. Are you clear? Okay. So you have a big unemployment now. If compiler only can do that, you'll have a big unemployment. All the people, no one is required. That only will do. Even AI, what we have here, that is only showing you, this can be the chance. That's all. It's not writing up the code. It is telling you, this is the chance. You use the appropriate option. It doesn't write. Got the point or not? So what is it telling you? Confirm. You confirm by using a tab key. I am thinking this one. Compiler don't know that. Compiler never writes the logic to you at all. Compiler never checks the logic. Why, sir? Why compiler never checks the logic? Because logic can be implemented by 10 people in 10 different ways. Am I correct? Yes or not? But tell me, can 10 people change the syntax of anything? Can you write a for loop in 10 ways? Can you write a for loop in 10 different ways? You can't write for loop in 10 different ways. Here, for loop has a standard syntax. Everyone has to follow that syntax. Initializer, condition, iterator. You need to follow the particular syntax. Can you change the syntax? That is fixed. Everyone has to follow. Logic. Logic can be written by 10 people in 10 different ways here. Are you clear? Then why will compiler check logic now? How does it read your brain and understand the logic? But syntaxes, no one can change. Syntaxes are fixed. So, it'll only just check with the syntaxes, but not with the logic. So, did you understand the mistake in the code now? What is it? Wrong implementation of logic will lead you to a runtime error. Okay, another example. Yeah, come on. Is there any compile time error? What is that? Read line, yeah. Read line. I is capital there. L, I is in capital. That is a compile time error. Any other? Notice every character carefully. That's what. Everything is perfect. Is there any runtime error? Is there any chance of getting a runtime error? Is there any chance of getting a runtime error? Why you're talking about string to int conversion? I do not understand. Is there any chance of getting a runtime error? Yes, yeah. If the user enters a non-integer value, if the user enters a non-integer value, runtime error will come now. User entered a double. User entered a boolean. User entered a character. User entered a string. All this will cause you runtime errors. Are you clear? So the second reason why we get a runtime error, wrong input supplied to a program. Wrong input supplied to a program also will cause you runtime error. So wrong implementation of logic is one reason. Wrong input supplied to a program is one reason. Not only these two here, we have so many different scenarios why runtime errors will occur for you in the program. Another example I'll tell you. What's you're trying to read from a file. You're trying to read from a file present on the hard disk. You're opening and reading a file content from the hard disk. Today you written the program, perfectly executed, everything is fine. Tomorrow you ran the program and you got an error. What error? Someone deleted the file here. Someone deleted the file. Today when I written the program, the file was present. Tomorrow when I'm running that, someone deleted the file on the hard disk now. Error. What's it? File not found. Are you clear? You're trying to access a database on a remote computer. You're trying to access a database on a remote computer. Today you tried, you're able to connect to the database, you're able to load the data, everything is fine. But tomorrow when you run, there are chances of getting errors. Why? There is a network failure. There is a network failure. There are issues in the network. Network connectivity problems are there. So error will come. Second chance, the server machine is shut down. The server machine is shut down. Understood or not? So what will happen? That will cause you runtime errors. So like what I'm trying to tell you is there is not one reason here. There are so many reasons why runtime errors occurs in your program. Understood my point or not? So many reasons why runtime errors occur. So what happens when a runtime error occurs in the code? Whenever a runtime error occurs in the code, the program gets abnormally terminated on the same line without executing the next lines of code. What happens? The program gets abnormally terminated on the same line without executing the next lines of code. For example, all of you observe. I am defining a class here. We'll name the class as exception demo. Okay. Now writing the main method. And now inside of it, let me write this code now. Let me write this code. And here I'm writing console.writeLine. End of the loop. Okay, now. So what I'm expecting to print 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and finally end of the loop. This is what I'm expecting. Clearer, huh? If the program runs successfully, that is the output I'm expecting. But all of you observe, error came, did not print you end up. Error came, did not print you. What it did not print? Did not print you end of the loop, see? Why is it closing off like this? What happened to this? Window is closing off. Hey. Control F5, also not working. Okay, there is an option here, automatically close the window when the debugging completes. That's why it is closing of the window. Okay, yeah, I just removed the property. You can see there. End of the loop statement is not printed. End of the loop statement is not printed. This is a clear identification for you to understand what? Abnormal termination. Are you clear? Luckily today we have only one line only, but tomorrow think there are 100 lines of code. All the remaining 100 lines of code will not execute here. Got it? Understood the impact of abnormal termination? These are dangerous. Why? Abnormal termination. Abnormal termination. See, simple understand here, runtime errors are very, very dangerous. A company is manufacturing engines for aeroplanes. Engines for aeroplanes. So they manufactured an engine now. After manufacturing an engine, so to test the capability of the engine, what did they do is they started the engine right and left it running continuously for 24 hours. So in these 24 hours, the engine should not stop now. Are you clearer or not? So they just started it and just kept it left like that for 24 hours. Continuously the engine running for 24 hours, they left it. Are you clearer or not? Okay, 24 hours continuously, the engine was running and left it. Everything is fine. But the company did not test it like this year. They tested for 1 hour and said that, okay, engine is working fine, and they left it. Now the engine was fitted in an aeroplane. The aeroplane was in the air. And the engine has a problem. What is the problem? Continuously, if the engine runs for 1.5 hours, there is something happening and the engine is stopping now. But the company tested it only for 1 hour. Now the flight is in the air for 1.5 hours. Engine stopped. Danger or not? You're putting the life of all the people in the aeroplane in a risk. So that's what I'm telling you. When engine stops when you are testing, there is no problem. That is compile. Okay, but engine stops when the flight is in the air. That is danger. That is runtime. Are you clearer or not? So that's what I'm trying to tell. Runtime errors are dangerous. Be careful. What is the danger? The program abnormally stops on the same line where the error got occurred. The program abnormally stops on the same line where the error got occurred, and that is the danger what you have with runtime errors. Are you guys clearer or not? Okay. The just a minute. Yeah. So fine. So this is what. So you are just going to get the error. Okay. Try the second one also. Here I shown you one more example. You can try this also, guys. Try this. enter an integer value. Perfect. No issues with this. But see, in this program, I have a chance of getting different types of errors. Option 1, I'm entering a character error, abnormal termination. See that end of the program is not printed. Yes or not? Next, another chance. I'm entering integer value only, but more than the capacity of integer, error. Are you clearer or not? So whenever this error occurs in the code, your program gets abnormally terminated. Whenever an error occurs in the code, your program will be abnormally terminated. Point clearer or not? Understood my point? Okay. So that is the impact of the runtime errors. That is the impact of the runtime errors what we just have. So whenever you get a runtime error in the code, your program is going to be abnormally terminated. Okay, have a look on this. Read it. When we build an application, we come across two types of errors. What are those? Second, what is a compile time error? They're not dangerous at all. Okay, next question. These are errors which comes into picture in the middle of a program's execution. Okay, next. Why will you get runtime errors in the code? There are various reasons like why you get the runtime errors in the code. Wrong implementation of logic, I've given you an example. Wrong input supplied, I've given you an example. Missing of any resources, network issues, all these things. An example for wrong implementation of logic. An example for wrong input supplied to the program. Are you clear? So an example for wrong input supplied to the program. An example for wrong implementation of logic. Understood or not? Okay, so that's what exactly we have. So fine. Now, the next thing is clearer? These are very dangerous. What happens when we get a runtime error? The program abnormally terminates on the same line where the error got occurred. Okay, now where the error got occurred, the program is going to be abnormally terminated. Okay, so that's what the danger with the runtime errors. So these are very, very dangerous. Remember. What next? Who is responsible for abnormal termination of a program when a runtime error occurs in the code? This is the question now. Sir, you're telling abnormal termination occurs. Who is responsible for abnormal termination? Because number of times I'm telling you one thing. A computer is a brainless machine. It doesn't do anything on its own. Every action what a computer performs is based on some logic implemented by the developers. Are you clearer? So for this abnormal termination also some logic should be there then. Understood my point? So now the question is, who is responsible for abnormal termination of a program when a runtime error occurs in the code? Okay, read guys. Who is responsible? Exceptions are responsible. That is, designer of the programming language defined these exceptions to perform an abnormal termination. Who is responsible? Exceptions are responsible. Means what is it? Designers of the language, designers of the programming language. Someone designed the programming language now. Those designers defined these exceptions to perform an abnormal termination. So what's your next question? Don't have any doubts? Use your brains here. What is an exception? The next question should be, okay, sir, you're telling exceptions are responsible. Designers designed these exceptions. But what is it? Are you clear? What is an exception? Read. What is an exception? Class. In object-oriented programming, guys, everything is a class. In object-oriented programming, everything is a class. Say, we'll start with GUI programming in this week, I said you. We'll work with a button. You know button? You work with a text box. You work with a label. They're all controls, correct? All these are classes. In object-oriented programming, everything is class. All are classes in object-oriented programming. Whatever you come across, it's a class. Button is a class. Text box is a class. Same way, exception is also a class. A class with some behavior to it. Okay, now? And remember, class means it's not like one single class. Class means it's not like one single class. We have a set of classes available, and all these are called as exception classes. I repeat, class means it is not one single class. There are a set of classes available, and we call them as exception classes. I'll show you an example. Watch. I'm running this program. If I enter Y, I get an exception now? Yes or not? And what is the exception? All of you read it carefully. This is the name of the class. What exception occurred, you know? Format exception occurred. And telling you a message, displaying a message. What is the message? Input string was not in a correct format. Input string was not in a correct format. Are you people clearer or not? What is that? Input string was not in a correct format. Okay. Next. It's a separate class. See the name of the class. What is the class? Overflow exception. It is a overflow exception. Remember this code already now? Index out of range exception. See, every class is displaying the same error message or different error message. That's why different classes here. If you get the same message, one class can do. Are you clear? Separate classes are what we just have here. Okay. One day, just a minute. You remember this program, guys? Once I explained about instances, references, variables, dereferencing instances. I explained all these concepts to you. Now see, F1 is equals to null means you're dereferencing an instance, correct? And on that day I explained you F2.x is a valid statement, F1.x is a invalid statement. What happens? Here I very clearly mentioned you invalid and that's a runtime error, guys. If you try to call that, that is a runtime error. Watch. What is the error? Observe it. Oh, I put this in comment. That's why I did not get the error. The code is in comment. That's why we did not get the error. Tomorrow, when you're developing the applications, guys, by reading the name, you should understand what error is it. You get a null reference exception in the code. What is the meaning, you know? The object is not initialized. The object is not initialized. When it is not initialized or when it is dereferenced, we get this error. Are you clear? Format exception. What is the format exception? Format exception means it's a invalid type conversion. You're trying to convert from one type to another type, which is not going to be possible. That is the format exception. Overflow exception. What is the overflow exception? The given value is bigger than the size or the capacity of the type now. Bigger than the capacity of the type. We get an overflow exception. Divide by zero exception. Can anyone understand this? Divide by zero exception. In your school days, you learned, remember, you cannot divide a number by zero. You try to divide a number by zero, you'll get this exception. File not found exception. You understand English, na? I said you simply only, na? Then why are you putting blank faces and watching? Tell me, what is it? The file you are trying to identify is not missing now. Are you clear? Primary key violation exception. You learned about constants in your SQL? Started, huh? Primary key means duplicate value being inserted into your column. Duplicate value getting inserted into column. You get an exception. What is that? Primary key violation exception. Are you clear? So like this, variety of predefined classes are available. It's not like one class, guys. It's a set of classes. We call all these classes as exception classes. And all these classes are responsible to do two things. What are the two things? One, abnormal termination. Two, display an error message describing about the error. First one, abnormal termination. Second one, are you clearer or not? So all classes will do the two actions in common. Okay, now let us just go for refreshing the subject what we learned earlier. What is it? So all classes are doing two things in common. What are the two things, guys? Abnormal termination of a program. Second one, displaying an error message. Abnormal termination. The logic for abnormal means there is some logic for abnormal termination. The logic for abnormal termination is the same for all or varies from class to class. The logic for abnormal termination is same for all or varies from class to class. Why will it vary here? You are telling abnormal termination varies per class to class. Body present and mind absent or what? All are abnormal termination only, na? Then why the logic will vary? What is the second thing? Displaying an error message. Are you showing the same error message for all or varies from class to class? This varies from class to class. Abnormal termination is same only, na? Why does it vary for class to class? What varies for class to class? Error messaging code varies from class to class. Correct? Now you remember when you have multiple classes having the same logic to define, what you do? Inheritance. We define a parent, we write the common code in the parent and specific code in the child. Correct? The same thing has been adopted here. Read carefully. What is an exception? It is a class and instance of this class responsible for abnormal termination of a program when there is a runtime error in the code. Okay, na? Read. Class in the sense, it is not a single class. That is, there are various exception classes that are predefined and each class represents a different type of runtime error. You understood? Errors. File not found. That's one error. Primary key violation. Another error. Null reference. That is an error. Index out of bounds. Another error. Are you getting my point? Okay. Read the note. Just now I explained you. What are the two? Abnormal termination. Second one, display an error message describing about the error. What is common here? Abnormal. Can I define this logic in a class and make it as a parent of all the classes? Yes or no? Yes. So now you see, guys, what is the parent class of all the classes? Exception. What is the parent class? What it contains? Read. First be active, yeah. You're lazy. What is that? What it contains? Now you understand, this is the parent now. Now all are child. Now in the child, what is present? Error message logic. What is present? Why error message logic is in the child? Because the error message varies from class to class now. Are you getting my point or not? So in all the childs, I need the code for error messaging. Are you clear? Now you wanted mandatory displaying error message for all the childs? Yes. If that is the case, what to do? Recollect inheritance, what you learned. Recollect object-oriented programming, what you learned. If you want to restrict all the children to write the error messaging coding, you declare one member in the parent as abstract, so that all should compulsory implement the method now. Are you clear? Second option, declare override. So all this can, declare virtual. So all those can override. Anything you can do. You can also declare as abstract. Also you can declare it as virtual. But if you want to declare abstract, the parent also becomes abstract. No, I don't want the parent abstract. You want the parent abstract? Then virtual. Are you getting my point here? Because if it is abstract, you cannot use the parent anywhere. Remember that? Instance creations won't be possible. Are you clear? But no, I want to use the parent. If you want to use parent, it should not be abstract. So second alternative, what we have? Virtual. Okay. Now guys, observe it. These are the predefined classes what we have. First class, exception. Okay. Under that, there are two separate classes again. What are they? Application exception, system exception. Now under system exception, all these classes comes. Form exception, null reference, index out of range, arithmetic. Under arithmetic again, overflow, divide by. What is that? I shown you this scenario for you already here. Student, staff. Under staff again, teaching, non-teaching. Okay. So wait. Hold on. Okay. So like we have the various classes. Am I audible? Am I audible here? Okay. Yeah, there are various classes here. What are the class? First one, exception. What it contains? Logic for abnormal termination. Now these are all child classes. Now what is the first child? Application exception. Second, see, person, student, staff. Under staff again you define subclasses now. Same way, under system exception, all these are childs. Again, under this, again we have two subchild classes. Are you clearer or not? See, each exception class comes into picture for a different type of error that got occurred. Yes, na? All classes are not coming at based on the type of error. You are getting a different class there. Correct or not? Okay. And read this finally. Sorry. Read that. First one. Logic of exception class means parent class. I'm talking about parent class. See that. Common logic inherited to all child classes. Now tell me, all exception classes can perform an abnormal termination or not? Yes, any class inheriting from exception can do. Tomorrow I defined a class inheriting from exception. My class also can do abnormal termination. Second, contains a virtual read-only property. What is the name? To publish the error message, and because this property is virtual, all the child classes can override it as per the requirement to display a different error message. So in the parent, they declared a virtual property. Now what are the child classes doing? Overriding that property and changing the error message. Are you clear? Tomorrow I'll show you how these classes are defined. How the predefined classes are defined, I'll tell you. I'm not going to define them. What I'll tell you? How they are defined. We'll try to write the logic and understand how they are defined. Someone written the code now. How did they write? I'll tell you in the tomorrow session. Let me stop here. We'll meet tomorrow.
Recording stopped.